श्रीगुरुभ्यो वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः गुरवे सर्वलोकानां भिषजे भवरोगिणां निधे सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः व्यासम् अष्टनप्तारं शक्ते भोत्रमकल्मषं पराशरात्मजं वन्दे शुकदातं तपोनिधिम् नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् मूकं करोति वाचालं भङ्गं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपादभं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं नारायणपुरो व्यक्तादण्डमव्यक्तसम्भवमण्डस्यान्तस्तु मे लोकः सप्तद्वीपा च मेदिनीं पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणे स्वयं व्यासेन कृतां पुराणमणिनां मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीमष्टादशाध्यायिनीं अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवेद्वेषिणीं श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् अवतीर्णश्च कालट्यां केदारेन्तरेतश्च पीठप्रतिष्ठाय यदाच्यङ्करो गुरुः. Previously, we were looking at in this Jnana-Karma-Sanyasa Yoga shlokas 21 and 22nd. Nirashrir yada chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvannapnoti kilbisham. Yadrichaya labhasantushto dvandvatito vimatsarah samasiddha vasiddho cha krutvapi na nibadhyate. So, this is about talking about that karma sannyasi who does not have any karma or karma for him. So such a action or inaction for him, there is nothing because he does everything without attachment, right? So without solicitation, whose mind is fully under control, totally without any positions, he performs those karmas. Whatever that comes his way unasked for, he without any dualities, without free from all the spite and anger and hate or anything like that, equipoised in success or failure, he performs those karmas, and that's why he is not bound by those karmas. And then we started looking at the next shloka, which is the 23rd shloka, where Bhagavan says that Gata Sangasya Muktasya Jnana Avastita Chetasa Yajnaya Acharata Karma Samagram Praviliyate. So Gatasang, the one who is mukta, liberated person who has got rid of the attachment, whose mind is fixed in this jnana, knowledge, such a person, karmas undertaken for the sacrifice, get totally destroyed. So Gatasangasya means free from material attachment. Muktasya is liberated of the liberated. Jnana avastita, established in this divine knowledge. Chetasa, whose intellect. Yajnaya, a sacrifice to devatas. Acharata means performing. Karma is action. Samagram is completely. Praviliyate, or free. So Bhagavad Pada here explains that of that liberated persons, the mukta, nivritta, that mukta is the one who is nivritta dharmadi bandhanasya. So he is nivritta, he is relieved from dharma and adharma. So we again looked at previously why both dharma and adharma is relieved from him. He is not attached to those bondages of dharma and adharma, because dharma or adharma, whether it is papa or punya, whatever it is, if it is result driven, then those dharma adharma comes in. If there is nothing, no attachment, no hankering or anything, then if those karmas are permanent, there is no dharma and adharma for such a person. So such a person is relieved from that those bondages of dharma and adharma, who has got rid of the attachment, Gata Sangasya. So he has got rid of those attachment. So attachment again here, Bhagavan Acharya explains us, Sarvato Nivritta Saktehe. So who has become detached from everything, Sarvato. So he is Sarvata, he is detached from everything. And he is Jnana Avastita Chetasa. He is whose mind is fixed in knowledge only. Jnane eva avasthitam chetaha. So his mind is fixed in jnana only, in that state only. So such a person, the one who is liberated person, who has got rid of the attachment, whose mind is fixed in knowledge only, his karmas, his actions, undertaken for a sacrifice. So sacrifice again to accomplish a sacrifice or for Vishnu, because sacrifice is Vishnu. Yajna Vishnu, we see that in the Vishnu Puran. So for sacrifice, for accomplishing the sacrifice, whatever he does, karmas he undertakes, those get destroyed totally. Samagram means totally. Saha means together. Agrena means with consequence and results. So that's why samagram here means totally, together with its consequence and results, that gets destroyed. That's the meaning of this shloka here. Again, the one who has got rid of the attachment, who is free from craving for the results, the one who is liberated, one who is devoid of superimpositions of agentship or enjoyership, and so on. The one whose mind is fixed in the jnana, who is of steady wisdom, whose mind remains established in that supersensuous conscious of the identity of Brahman and the Atma. So again here, the adjectives used are, they need to be understood as succeeding the previous one. So if you look at that, for example, the one who is free from attachment, from where that person becomes, how one person becomes free from attachment, from the absence of superimposition. From where that is coming, it is from the man of steady wisdom. So like this, gadasangasya muktasya jnana avasthiti chetasa. So it is from one to another, it is linked. So such a person, even in the case of a person of that kind, actions consisting of sacrifices, charity, and whatever it is, performed under the impulsion of his prarabdha karma for the perpetuation of the sacrifices, for the engagement of people in such sacrifices, and so on the ground of being practiced, followed by these eminent people, again, loka sangrahartam, or yajnaya again means for Vishnu, for pleasing Vishnu. So those karmas get destroyed completely. They get eradicated because of the destruction of the cause of those actions as a result of realization of the reality. And together with their results, samagram here again, together with results, the word again, as I said before, the word samagram here, sam means that exists along with and that follows the results is agra. So the results, together with the results, it gets destroyed for that person. Now Bhagavan starts explaining that jnana sacrifice. He starts explaining that the Jnana-yajna, so wisdom sacrifice. He starts explaining that the question comes as Arjuna, or our question comes listening to this. For what reason again does the action that is underway get destroyed totally without producing its results? So the question is coming is, because in this shloka we said that samagram, right? So everything together with results, it get destroyed for that person. So for what reason? If somebody is performing the karmas, for what reason it gets destroyed? That's the question. And Bhagavan explains that in the next shloka, 24th shloka, which is a very famous shloka in Bhagavad Gita. Brahmarpanam brahmahavir brahmagno brahmanahutam brahmaiva tena gantavyam brahma karma samadhina. So Brahman is the offering, Brahman is the oblation, by Brahman is the oblation poured into the fire of Brahman, and Brahman is certainly shall be reached by him who always sees Brahman in action. So Brahma means Brahman here, Arpanam means the ladle, the offerings, and Brahma again means Brahman. Again, I'm not going to repeat every word Brahma here. Brahma means Brahman. Okay, so it is that Paramatma. Havi means the oblation. Brahma again means Brahman. Agno means sacrificial fire. Brahmana means by the person. Hutam means offered. Brahma means again Brahman. Eva certainly. Tena by that. Gantavyam means to be attained. Brahma again means Brahman, karma, offering, samadhina means those who completely absorbed in that divine consciousness. So those who are realized. So that is the meaning of the words padartha. Now Acharya explains again. This shloka is recited in various places. Okay, so not just in as part of Bhagavad Gita. For example, during lunchtime, this shloka is said. During pujas or anything at the end of that, this shloka is said. When we say Krishna Arpanamastu or whatever it is, we say at that time Brahma Arpanamastu. At that time again, this shloka is repeated. This shloka is one of the famous shlokas. The meaning explanation from Acharya goes like this: Brahmarpanam, the ladle. So the what we are looking at in this shloka is if we actions such as sacrifices and so on, they can be accomplished with many accessories determined by the case endings here. So the sacrifices certainly they consist of consistent parting with the ownership of things, right? Sacrifice means we are giving away something, whether it is maybe ghee or whether it may be gift or whatever it is, we are putting something in the fire. We are giving away something, the ownership of things for the sake of some devata, some deity. And that itself is said to be an oblation. When the things are parted with, is dropped into that fire, sacrificial, this fire, homagni, when it is dropped in that, it is parted, and that thing is dropped. When it is dropped, and it is parted. Then that thing is parted, and the devata in the view again is a dative recipient here. The thing offered, denoted by the word oblation or havis, is a indirect object here, karma, and the act itself is a kriya. That is again meant by the root word. Again, these are. There are different instruments used. Similarly, the ladle. Ladle means the one used to pour the ghee. Okay, suk, sruva, dravi, like this. There are many terms used in the homas, right? So the one used to pour the ghee, the one used to pour the havis, for example, a charu or whatever it is to pour that, and things like that. There are different types of them. So all those instruments, they are karanas. Because the containers of those oblations, they are the principles again. So these are all there. So when all the dealings involved with actions and accessories and so on, which are again imagined on the account of ignorance of Brahman, they become sublated. They become sublated by the realization of the reality of the Brahman. So just like snake or line or stick or whatever we imagine when we see the rope in the darkness, right? So just like that, they become sublated. So what here Bhagavan is saying is, in this shloka, Brahmarpanam, the ladle, the spoon, let's call it, okay, that's used, the suk, sruva, darbi, all those things that's used in that yajna, that is Brahman. Brahman, the knower of the Brahman perceives the instrument with which he offers the oblation into that fire as Brahman itself. Okay, the realized person, the self-realized person, he sees that suk, sruva, darvi, or whatever it is that used to pour that oblation into that sacrificial fire, homagni, he considers that itself as Brahman, and tasya Atma Vatirekena Abhavam Pashyati. He perceives it as not existing separately from Atma, self. Yata Shaktikayam Rajata Bhavam Pashyati. So just as one sees non-existent of silver in mother of pearl. So just as one sees it as a rope, not as a snake. Okay. So just like that, he sees that as Brahman. He does not see it as anything else. And in the sense that Brahman itself is the ladle. Ladle here again, I repeat, that's suk, sruva, darvi. Okay. So those instruments that's used in that homa, sacrifice. So he's in the sense that itself is Brahman. Yata yad rajatam tat shuktikai veti. So just as what appears to be silver is only mother of pearl, so just like that, he sees that as a Brahman. Again, Brahmarpanam iti. So again, Acharya here explains that Brahmarpanam, here this is two words, Brahma and Arpana, they are not a compound word, they are not samasas, they are two separate words. And Acharya says, Yat Arpana Buddhya Grihyate Loke Tat Asya Brahmavidha Brahmaiva Ityartha. So the meaning again is that to the knower of the Brahman, what is perceived in the world as a ladle, everybody sees it as a ladle, but for that knower of Brahman, it is the Brahman itself. That ladle, what we say as ladle, for him, in that sacrifice, when he is performing that sacrifice, for him, that itself is Brahman. Okay? So he does not see any difference. So for us, it is a ladle. For us, it is a oblation. For us, it is Agni. For us, it is Homakunda or whatever it is, right? So we see all these things as different. When we are doing Homa or Puja or whatever, so we see this as a flower, we see this as a garland, we see this as something else. Okay? For him, that is all Brahman. The instruments is, we are talking ladle here, what we are looking at, Arpanam, the ladle, what we are talking about, is the instrument. Okay? Instrument he sees as a Brahman. And similarly, Brahmahavi. Brahmahavi yata tata yat havir buddhya grihyamanam tat brahmaiva asya. So the oblation is Brahman. So Homa oblation that's being offered, that itself is Brahman. To whom? To him, what is seen as oblation is nothing but Brahman. In the same way, Brahmagno. Again, Acharya here adds a note saying that this is a compound word. Unlike Brahmarpanam, here it is Brahmagno is a compound word, is a samas. So that Brahmagno, Agni, is also Brahman for him. The Agni into this oblations is Hutam, poured, is Brahman. So again, Hutam, whatever is poured, the fire into which this oblation is poured by Brahman, by the agent, by is Brahman himself, the one who is pouring that, the Advaryu, the one who is reciting those mantras and things. The mantra is also instrument. That also is considered as Brahman. Okay, so the performer is also Brahman. The priest is also Brahman. Okay, the Havi is also Brahman. The ghee is also Brahman. The charu or whatever is prepared, that's also Agni is also Brahman. He sees everything as Brahman. The meaning is that Brahman itself is the agent offering of this offering. Yat tena hutam havana kriya tat brahmaiva. So that he makes the offering, the act of offering, that is also Brahman for him. So then Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahma-Karma-Samadhina. So, and the result that is gantavyam, to be reached by him. So again, we are talking about the one who has attained that state. It is not for ordinary people like us. Okay, for us, we see everything different, right? We see the basket carrying the flower is different. Flower is in that, the flower we see it as a different, and even among the flowers we see different flowers. Okay, different types of flowers, size or color or whatever shape or whatever, we see different things. Okay, but for the one who has reached that state, for him, including the basket or flower or garland or the Bhagavan image or whatever we have, Kalasha or whatever it is we have, or Agni or whatever we have, he sees everything as Brahman. And the result is that Gantavyam, to be reached by him, that also is surely Brahmaeva, surely it is Brahman. So the result for him, because of that, whatever that result that comes out, to be reached by him also, Brahman only. And Brahma-Karma-Samadhina, by him who has concentration on that Brahman as the objective. Brahman itself is the objective. That's the karma. And who has concentration, samadhi, on that Brahma Karma Samadhi. The one who has Brahman itself as the objective, as the karma, who has that concentration on that here again is on that Brahman, is Brahma Karma Samadhi. The goal to be reached by him is Brahman alone. Again, so like this, Loka Sangram Chikirshuna api Kriyamanam Karma Paramartha Akarma Brahma Buddhi Mrudi Tattvat. So Acharya says here that even the actions undertaken by one who desires to prevent the mankind going astray, Loka Sangrartham. So if one is performing that jnani, even if he is performing the karmas for the Loka Sangraha, to prevent the people going astray, in reality, it is inaction for him. It is inaction. Even though he is performing those karmas, it is inaction. Because it has been destroyed by that realization of that Brahman. So, that being so, in the case of Acharya said, Nivritta Karmanopi, so the ascetics, the yatis, from whom the action has been dropped off. Okay, dropped off means they did not drop it. It left them. They do not perform any karmas because even though they perform karmas, again, it is very difficult to comprehend here. And for us, right, when you are, for example, a Brahmajnani performing, okay, I'll give today's example, okay. Jagadguru Mahasanidam, they perform Chandramauleshwara Puja, right? Every day they perform. We see that, we get to see that. If when they are Brahmajnanis, why they still perform those Chandramauleshwara Puja every day? Why they perform the vratas? Why they go to they perform all the other pujas and everything? Why they do it? For Loka Sangrahas. But for them, that once they reach that Brahm realization state, for them there is no karma to perform. Even if they are performing for Loka Sangrahartham, Bhagavad Pada here explains that they are, in reality, for them it is inaction, akarma. They are not performing anything. Because they see Brahman everything. In everything they touch, they see, they do everything is Brahman. So for them there is no, if Brahman is giving to Brahman, there is no nothing, right? So it is all Brahman. So that's why for them the karmas have been dropped off for them, but they may still appear for us. They may still be doing it. For us, it appears that they are still doing, but they are doing it. If they are still doing it for Loka Sangraha, it is still considered as inaction. So in the case of that ascetic for whom the karmas have been dropped off, Sarva-karma-Sanyasina, who has renounced all the activities, Samyak Darshana Stutyartam Yajnatva Sampadanam Jnanasya Sutaram Upapadyate. So who has renounced all the activities, weaving his knowledge as a kind of sacrifice, his jnana as a kind of sacrifice. For that too becomes all more justified from the point of view of praising the full realization. So there again, Acharya Bhagavad Pada explains that even because this all becomes in reality is inaction for that realized person, even in the case of the ascetic for whom the karmas have been renounced, dropped off, who has been nivritta, so have given up, dropped off. Okay, there is no need for performing any karma for him. And those who are renounced all the karmas. Again, this is again renunciation here after Brahmajnana. That means they don't renounce, the karmas themselves leave them. Right? And even those who are weaving his knowledge as he considers his jnana as the sacrifice. Even from that point of view, when we look at this is said here in the full of praising that full realization. That's what is said. And that is arpanadi adiyajne prasiddham tat asya adhyatmam brahmaiva paramartha darshana iti. So Acharya explains that whatever is well known as ladle or fire or oblation or whatever, right? In the context of sacrifice, whatever that is said, all that in the context of Atma is Brahman itself to the one who has realized that supreme truth. So whatever is what we see as a ladle and so on, in the context of sacrifice, all that in the context of Atma is Brahman itself for the one who has realized that supreme truth. If it is not so, then since all in Brahman, it would have been useless specifically mentioning ladle and so on as Brahman. So Acharya says that if that's not the case, here in this shloka mentioning individually separately, right? The ladle, the fire, the oblation, everything, okay? Individually, that is becoming useless. Therefore, Brahmaiva idam sarvamiti abhijanata vidusha karma bhava. So, all the actions cease to exist for the man of realization who knows that Brahman itself is all this and follows also from karaka buddhya bhavacha. So, in the absence, in the end, this follows from the absence in him of the ideas of accessories. He does not see these as accessories, whether it is mantra or the ladle or whatever it is, he does not see them as accessories. Because the act, the karma called sacrifice, yajna, is not seen to exist without being the association with the ideas of the accessories, these karakas. Karaka is accessories here. So without, it is not seen, yajna is not seen without these idea of these accessories. When it is like that, the acts such as Agnihotra and so on, they are associated with the ideas of accessories as making the offering and so on to the particular devata who are revealed in the Shastras. And the idea of agentship has also desire for results and so on, right? So again, if you come back to our world, we see, as said, mentioned just now, we see these flowers or milk or whatever we bring, the prasada or whatever it is we see for the pujas, right? We bring even the vigraha. We have all those things we see as different things, right? And there are accessories, there are things we do with, for example, fire is not an accessory. We pour into that, drop into that. Here again, vigraha, we pour milk into that, right? And the process of pouring that milk, pouring itself, right? So all that we see as different things, right? So there is karma, act, and there is the entire puja, and there is accessories and all those things. Different things are there. And we have the agentship. I am doing this. The doer is also there. And the desire for results is also there. So all that is there. But they're not found rid of the ideas of such distinctions as exist among actions, accessories, and results, or associated with the idea of agentship and hankering for the results and things like that. They're not found in that person. That idam to Brahma Buddhi upam Brudi Tarpanadi Karka Kriya Palabheda Buddhi Karma. So Acharya explains that this Jnana-yajna, knowledge sacrifice, this is apparent activity of man of knowledge, however, stands dissociated from the ideas of differences among the accessories like ladle and so on, the actions, the pouring of milk on vigraha or dropping something into the fire, and the results, okay, the results attaining, which all that they all stand dissociated from that, which get destroyed by the knowledge of Brahman. Hence, atha akarmaiva tata. So Acharya here explains that because of that, it is inaction for sure. So he says that it is inaction for sure. It is definitely inaction only. It is akarma only for him. Even though he's performing all those karmas, it is inaction only. And that also Bhagavan Acharya explains that this has been shown already in Bhagavad Gita itself. Bhagavan explains that karmanya karmana yah pashyet. So he who finds action in an action in the 18th shloka, for example, and in the 20th shloka he says karmanya pravrittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. So he really does not do anything even though he is engaged in the action. And then in the 28th shloka later on we see guna guneshu vartante, the organs act on the objects of organs. And then in the 5th chapter, 8th shloka, Bhagavan says, Naiva kinchit karomi yukto manyeta tattvavita. So remaining absorbed in that self, the knower of the reality should think, I certainly do not do anything. So all this Bhagavan explains, relating, saying that even that jnani, even though he is performing karma, it is akarma. While pointing out like that, तथा च दर्शयत् तत्र तत्र क्रियाकारक फल भेद बुद्ध्युपमर्दं करोति. So while pointing out like that, the Bhagavan explains here, Bhagavan here demolishes, destroys in various places the idea of differences among the actions, accessories and results for the jnani. And दृष्ट्वा च काम्याग्निहोत्रादौ कामोपमर्देन काम्याग्निहोत्रादि हानिः. So it is also seen in the case of rites such as Agnihotra undertaken for results, Kamya is Agni, so the fire is lit for desires with results, the Agnihotra and so on, they cease to be Kamya, right, undertaken for selfish motives when the desire for their results is destroyed. When the result is not there, they do not, even though Agnihotra is performed by him, it does not become, because there is no result orientation, desire for results, it stopped being Kamya karma. Similarly, Acharya explains that Tata मतिपूर्वकादीनां कर्मणां कार्यविशेषस्य आरम्भकत्वं दृष्टं तथा इहापि ब्रह्मबुद्ध्यपमृदितार्पणादिकारकक्रियाफलभेदबुद्धिः बाह्य चेष्टामात्रेण कर्मापि विदुषा कर्म सम्पद्यते. So similarly, it is seen that action done intentionally or unintentionally yield different results. So here as well, in the case of the one who has his ideas of distinction among the accessories like ladle and so on, action and results eliminated by the knowledge of Brahman. Even activities which are simply merely external movement amount to inaction. So they all like that. Hence, it is said that samagram praviliyate in the previous shloka. All that get completely destroyed, including its results. So Acharya then explains that a question that might come or some alternative interpretation that might come here, saying that which is Brahman is the ladle and the Brahmarpanam here, right? And so on, whatever this shloka said. Some people interpret this that say that it is surely Brahman itself which exists in 5 forms here. Okay, so nominative, objective, instrumental, dative, and locative, like this in different case endings, grammatical case endings, which probably exist, as in the instance of sacrifice or oblation, ladle, sacrificial fire, and the Brahman itself. So like this, it might exist in the 5 forms of the accessories, and it is that Brahman itself which undertakes the action. There are ideas of the ladle are not eradicated. The ideas of ladle or fire or whatever it is not eradicated by the ideas of Brahman, which is attributed to ladle and so on in this. And as one does the ideas of Vishnu and so on to the images or the idols, murtis, or as one does with the Brahman as a name and so on, right? So what other people interpret is this idea of that jnani does not see everything as Brahman. The idea of this ladle or this fire or whatever it is, that does not disappear even in the case of that Atma Jnani. Some people interpret like that. What Acharya explains that true, this could have been like that, as you say, but the context is not right here, because here Bhagavan is praising Jnana-yajna, the wisdom, the sacrifice, knowledge considered as a sacrifice. Here again, after presenting the full realization as expressed by the word Jnana-yajna, the varieties of rites as referred by the word yajna, sacrifice, and jnana has been praised by Bhagavan, saying that Shreyan Dravyamayad Yajna Jnana-yajna. So this Jnana-yajna is greater than the sacrifice requiring materials, things like that Bhagavan explains in the 33rd shloka of this adhyaya. So here the explanation is about Jnana-yajna. So in that and in the present context, the statement like Brahmarpanam and so on is capable of presenting the knowledge as sacrifice. Otherwise, Brahman is everything. It will be purposeless to speak specifically only ladle as Brahman or Agni as Brahman and pouring oblation as Brahman and so on. It is become purposeless. But those who maintain that one has to superimpose the idea of Brahman onto the ladle and so on, like superimposing idea of Vishnu and other things on the images or the idols and things like that, and Brahman on a name and so on. For them, the knowledge of Brahman, Brahma Vidya, stated in this verse, cannot be intended subject matter that is dealt here. The subject matter that we looking at here is Brahma Yajna. So because according to them, the ladle and or are primary objects of knowledge. So if ladle is the knowledge, then that's what they say. And Acharya explains that moreover, nacha drishti sampadana jnanena moksha palam praptate. Moksha cannot be attained by that knowledge, which consists of fixing an idea of Brahman on a symbol, okay, such as sacrificial rite. Okay, it has been here said that Brahman is the goal to be achieved. In this shloka, here it says Brahman is the goal that is to be achieved, and it is definitely opposed to the truth to maintain that moksha can be obtained without knowledge. So, knowledge in the form of superimposition of idea that cannot lead to moksha as a result. And what is said here is Brahmaiva tena gantavyam. Brahman alone is to be realized by him. That's also said here. So, and Acharya explains that it is inconsistent to maintain that result of moksha can be achieved without full realization. And it goes on to the context, goes out of the context here. So that's why in this here, next where Bhagavan says Shreyan Dravyamaya Jnana-yajna is superior than any other yajnas, and then achieving the knowledge, one attains supreme peace, and so on. Bhagavan explains that here it is unjustifiable to superimpose the idea of Brahman onto the ladle and so on, and just like the superimposition of idea of Vishnu on images and so on. So that's why this verse bears the meaning just as it's previously explained, that for him who has realized everything is Brahman, and for him, even though he's performing these karmas, there is no karma. So Acharya then, Bhagavan then starts explaining that sacrifice affected by the karmas. We will look at that next time.